Well, when my youngest saw it, and she's 22 when she saw a very, very early cut. Um, she is not a real fan of, she doesn't agitate for me to take her to the Broadway or to the musicals much. But she's sort of a serious girl, and she sat forward and she watched the whole thing. She didn't laugh a lot, even at the funny parts. And so I was afraid at the end, I didn't know what her reaction was because she's sort of unreadable. And she turned to me at the end and she said, "I love every single thing about this movie." And I said, "Wow." And I said, what was it that really interested you? She said, "There's a scene in the second half, after everybody gets their wish, when the world changes and cataclysm happens." And she was a fifth grader when we lived in New York, when 9/11 happened. And it was her second day at a new school. And her bus stopped at the World Trade Center at 8:15 in the morning, and then continued on under the tunnel to Brooklyn. And so she lived through that time, and she was a kid. And she said the floating debris, those little pieces of paper in the air after the forest comes down, she said that reminded me of that day. And so it made me think, yes, bad things happen in the world, and children are aware of them. And this is a way how it resolves at the end is an interesting prescription for hope.
Wow, that's a very great story. To many people, the witch might be perceived as the villain in the story, but in reality, she sort of has the clearest vision of anyone in the piece, right? Can you talk about that?
Well, the witch, yeah, I guess she sets things in motion. As most conflagrations begin with cycles of revenge, something was done to her. And so she's going to do it to someone else. And it's in service of something that she really wants, which is for her daughter to love her and never leave her. And embedded in that are all sorts of things that parents understand, worry about what's in the outside world, being hyper protective of kids. And that's all in her motivation to retain her daughter's love. And it's wrong-headed, but sometimes we all are.
As parents, for sure. Nice is different than good is also an important message in the film. Can you talk about how that line sort of informs the character of the witch?
Well, the witch gets her wish, which is that she gets that wish. She has every, imaginable surgery and procedure and injection and whatever it is, whatever the modern equivalent of getting your wish to have your beauty back. And yet, what is it? What is it? Her daughter doesn't stay with her and love her because she's beautiful. Her daughter loved her when she looked perfectly horrible. But, there's so many little negotiations in this, so much wisdom in every person's story, what each one covets, and then they get it, and then it isn't quite what they thought, and presents its own set of problems.
Well, Sondheim is very complex.
Like life. Life is very complex,
right.
and it doesn't. This musical doesn't talk down to its audience, whether the adults in it or the children.
Right. And Sondheim being sort of complicated, and knowing that it's hard enough to convey emotions through spoken dialogue, when you add Sondheim's music and lyrics to the process, how do you tackle that? Does that make it that much harder?
No, that makes the lyric married to an incredibly beautiful melody and full score is something that's like riding in the best car you could ever imagine. The ride is smooth, and you can trust where you're going. And for me, that music, it offers so many possibilities of feeling and musicality, and it holds a very high bar to get over, and everything about it is thrilling. I just never got tired of singing the songs. My family got tired of it, but I love it. I love the music. And not just my own, I love all the music. It's really, really wonderful. When that little boy jumps into the tree and says, "There are giants in the sky," with so much excitement, it's just about the discovery of youth and possibility outside your own little house. And there's so much in this musical.
It gets stuck in your head,
yeah.
too. It really does. Into the Woods, I think a lot of people would say, is Sondheim's most poignant work. And obviously it deals with issues that are still very relevant today. There's always going to be a giant in the world that we all sort of have to come together as a community to fight. Can you talk about that element?
When my son was a little boy, I was disturbed because he kept drawing these monsters, and he's a very good artist, and we lived in a beautiful place, and I thought, why doesn't he draw the lake and the trees and the island? And he would draw these things, that were just, and I think kids get themselves ready for their fears and to confront them, and they know. As safe as their world is, there's stuff out there that's scary. And you got to get ready for it. Little boys, are obsessed with superheroes and fighting monsters, and so it's in us. It's in our DNA to have fear and to get ready for trouble, because trouble's coming, no matter what you do. And so these fairy tales kind of were a way of, feeding the fear, in a way of keeping children safe by making them fearful, and don't talk to strangers and all those things. But I think it's understandable.
Absolutely. And sort of along the same line, it's, with important themes like the parent-child relationship, which is captured so beautifully, and children will listen. Can you talk about that and what you hope audiences will take away when they leave the theater with them?
Well, I'm not sure you take away something as much as you have awakened in you stuff you already knew. It's so deep. The themes of it are so deep that what happened when I saw the film was that it sort of awakens something you already know about relationships and the complexity and the forgiveness necessary in all parts of it. It's a very tender, compassionate movie in the end, and just, again, it's that music. It's the music that just that stays with you.